Well, I've been working on the latest addition to my small collection of bikes. The Interceptor, the Royal Enfield Interceptor, has gone. I didn't get on with it. I had problems with it with warranty, and when that was sorted, then it had to go back in for new calipers on a recall, and then I had a number of electrical problems, and the last electrical problem was just enough. And to be honest, I found the Interceptor a bit boring because it's a heavyweight motorcycle, 650, but they throttled the power down for A2 license holders, which means it's only got 47 horsepower, and for a heavyweight bike it's just not enough for me. So it's gone, and I've reverted as normal to another Honda, an old one, because I like old bikes. So here we are, the latest edition, and I've been working on this for a little while. I've had all the fairings off, checked everything, refurbed where necessary. The worst thing were the oil pipes, the oil cooler pipes, which are normally chrome, and after all the years and being hidden under the fairing, they had started to rust, and the chrome was flaking badly. So all that chrome had to come off, which wasn't too difficult because you can get at the pipes, and then it had to be rust proofed and painted with my favoured black paint, heat proof, rust-ins. Now if anyone does any painting of exhaust systems, get rust-ins, R-U-S-T-I-N-S. It's the only paint that works. It stays on. So there's the latest edition, the replacement for the Interceptor, and I think I struck lucky with this one. It is a CBR1100XX Blackbird, and it's a nice old bike which comes into classic territory. So the first thing that happened when I changed the insurance from the Interceptor to this was a discount of over £100. So here's my new Honda. Well, new. It's the sort of bike I like. It'll be 20 next year, 20 years old. It's obviously had a lot of attention from its previous owners, and like me, I guess it's had very little winter or wet use. I really am pleased with it so far, but all I've done is ride it round the garden, so until the weather improves a little bit, I shan't be bothering too much. But it's all legal and ready to go. And I've done the usual checks, and I've put running lights on it and extra rear lights, because I do a lot of motorway work when the weather's good, going up to the bungalow, and that's on the M5. And to be honest, the Interceptor wasn't up to motorway running. It just wasn't quick enough. I thought that the Interceptor might be a bike like 69 Bonneville, but no, it doesn't come anywhere near. It doesn't even come near to an Interceptor from the old days. The original Interceptor, the Royal Enfield, had 750 cc's, and it was much more powerful than the existing one. Anyway, this is an injection model. The best ones for collectors are the carbureted ones. They have a bit more power. And this is well down on the Hayabusa. the Gen 2 Hayabusa, which is also red, and it's 162 horsepower, which compares favourably to the Interceptor's 47 of weakness. And it's not necessarily that I like bashing around at high speed, but I like to potter about at 45 or 50. But there are times when I want things to happen when I open the throttle, particularly on the motorway. So if I'm in 6th gear and I'm doing 80, I expect to see 100 in a couple of seconds. Not that, you know, it's not the sort of thing you need. It's just nice to have the power. So as you can see, I've put running lights on it, and the previous owner had put a little light under the fairing. I found all this appalling wiring here and there, usual stuff, was twisted together and covered in insulation type tape. Definitely not my cup of tea. So all that had to go, and I found that little light under the fairing, which had failed, and someone had just sort of cut the connectors. So I rewired everything, put the 2 new running lights on, and there's an extra one under the fairing. I just happened to have a little extra one in stock. It's all wired into the pilot light system, so it has it's fused, and also it's separately switched. And I have to say, so far I absolutely love this thing. I didn't think I would, because when they first came out they had linked brakes, and this one does have linked brakes. I have yet to experience it. I had linked brakes on my GL1500 Goldwing, and I have to say I didn't really have a problem, but that was a big heavy bike. Very torquey, but not really as easy to handle as the average bike. I was younger and stronger in those days, of course, and it did have a useful reverse. Anyway, that was history, and that was what made way for the Interceptor, which was one of my big mistakes. I shall no longer hanker for any bike that pretends to be a classic, because when I used to pull out my BSA 650, it has about 30% less power and performance than the Interceptor, but it's 1,000% more interesting to ride. Not that the Interceptor was a bad bike. It had a nice smooth motor, the handling was good for what it was, and I think you know, value for money, probably okay. But it is an Indian made bike, and certainly I had problems with more than one electrical fault, and so I shan't be supporting India. Actually, I'm not too keen on the way India have not come out on the side of the West with relation to Ukraine being invaded, but that's another issue, isn't it? So there we are, running lights on the front for motorway use as usual, and it came with a Givi wing pack. You know, it's got full luggage. I was going to put the colour matched top box on it from my little Honda, but little C90, but when I was working on the Givi system I was so impressed, and the fact that it's got a really comfy backrest for the better third who likes to have something to lean against. I just refurbed everything and put it back on. I haven't yet done the 2 panniers, but if I ever go back touring again, and you never know, even at my age I might, they'll go on, and it'll be perfect for long distance touring. Not that I can do 500 miles in a day anymore, although I did that on my BSA 650, and it was no problem. Everything is completely original on this one, which is what I like. I always did like these silencers. We used to call them pepper pots at the back, and they are lovely. I love them. Shiny stainless and really nice and quiet, and I like quiet bikes. I've had quiet bikes and noisy bikes. It makes no difference in my experience of riding for over 50 years. The ones that pretend that their really horrible noisy bike is making a difference are kidding themselves. Yeah, I was quite lucky, I think, because this one's got a fender extender on it. It's got a hugger on the back. And it's got this very special handlebar system with what look like small Renthal bars. They look very like the Renthals I've got hanging up in the garage. I've put a mount on it for the tom-tom and a switch for the lights, which I'll now switch off, so that the running lights at the front are switched. And I also put some running lights on the back because, as I say, I like to be well seen. And if you compare the LEDs on the top box to the two lights that come as standard, it makes a difference. And I do like the GV indicators. They come out farther than the originals, and then of a good size. Similarly, the ones built into the mirrors, I think, are beautiful. Far nicer to look at than the Hayabusa. And incidentally, I've worked on both of these bikes now, and there's no question the Honda is a better build quality by far than the Hayabusa. Although I have to say the Hayabusa is easier to take the fairing lowers off than this one. There are lots of little clips and awkward bits and pieces to take off, but nothing too bad. The one thing I did do was fit sliders on, these CBR sliders, and I'm going to do a little video about fitting those, because I was chatting to someone and he said that he was too frightened to touch it because it wasn't one of these but another bike, because he didn't want to damage the fairing and he had no idea where to mark it. So I've done a little video, or will do a little video on that. It did have ineffective sliders here. Those sliders that are now located at the bottom were there. They were as good as useless. So proper sliders, and mainly for my purposes, it's if I can't haul bikes around like I used to, and if I drop it on its side, it's going to roll onto that and not damage things as it will roll onto this. So far I found the new handlebar system amazing, and they're not cheap, so I think I've done well, as I say. It's also got a lowering kit on the back, I noticed, which is brilliant for me because I'm short-legged. And anyway, going back to this, I thought, well, I'll reuse those sliders, and I just put a stainless steel spacer in and used it to put my running lights on. I'll only be using these on the motorway, but if it does roll over, it'll push onto that. Any slider with a 6mm connector fixing is as good as useless. It will just bend. The threads in this one are 10mm. They go straight into the engine casing, and they are very strong because obviously it goes through the fairing. And as you can see, you can't see the join. So far so good. I've had no reason to suspect I need to strip anything else. It had a full MOT, and Laurie tells me that it's a good one. Well, of course it's a good one. The CBR1100 was one of the best engines they ever made. If you were happy with 162 horsepower. And of course the booster, I can't remember what my Generation 1 booster was, but at least 20 horsepower more, and the Generation 3 up in the garage is getting on for 30 horsepower more. But the Hornet's 110, 115 horsepower, and it goes like a rocket.